Good evening to participants in Asia. Good morning to those in the Americas. And good afternoon to those who are joining from Europe and Africa. So I'm Dina O'Malley Deininger. I'm the practice manager for agriculture and food for the East Asia Pacific of the World Bank, and I will be chairing this webinar today. So first, a warm welcome to all of you who are joining this webinar on investing in green technology, um, technology innovation in China, the solutions from the Low Carbon and Climate Smart Agriculture Innovation Challenge. Now, we are very fortunate that today we will be hearing directly from practitioners on some of the innovative green agriculture technologies that are coming out of China. As you know, agriculture innovation has played a critical role in the economies and agricultural transformation of many East Asian countries over the last many decades. Now, this transformation began with the diffusion and adoption of high-yielding technologies. These improved technologies, coupled with investments in irrigation, agricultural extension, and broad economic reforms, resulted in dramatic increases in crop yields and agriculture production across the region. But today, the EAP region's agri-food systems are under increasing pressure to meet the demands of food as economies and populations grow, as urbanization increases, and as diets change. However, environmental stresses and climate shocks are threatening the achievement of these goals. So harnessing the new generation of agriculture innovations will be critical for greening agri-food systems in the region, and it holds great promise to increase agricultural productivity, food safety, and agri-food system sustainability, while most importantly improving farmers' incomes. They can strengthen mitigation capacity and foster greater resilience to climate change. Now, in 2020, the Henan Green Agriculture Fund was created by the Henan Agriculture Development Fund Investment Company Limited under the World Bank supported project, the Green Agricultural Fund Project. Its aim is to support the development of green agricultural financing, a mechanism that can leverage commercial investments and boost adoption of innovative technologies. It will help China fill in the gap in green financing standards and generate useful lessons and increase the quality and safety of agricultural food products. Now, a signature activity under this project is the Low Carbon and Climate Smart Innovations for Green Agriculture Innovation Challenge. To promote the discovery and dissemination of green agriculture technologies, this innovation challenge creates a marketplace to identify, share, learn, and celebrate green agriculture innovations. So the innovation challenge not only provides a platform to showcase and promote green agriculture technologies, but it also helps build new businesses and business opportunities in green agriculture. So we are joined today by the team leaders of the Green Agriculture Fund and 3 of the top finalists of the Innovation Challenge who will be sharing their experiences and lessons learned so far. Now, just a reminder, there will be a question and answer session after all the presentations have been completed. So for the participants, you can type your questions in the chat box while the speakers are speaking. And they will be able to respond to these questions in the Q&A answer after all the presentations have been completed, or maybe even directly in the chat box. We will have someone in the team who will collect the questions from the chat box and then pass them along to the speakers. So each of our speakers will have 10 minutes for their presentations. And let me hand it over now to Sita Machiraju, who is a senior agriculture economist in the agriculture and food practice of the World Bank East Asia Pacific region. Sita will talk about the Henan Green Agriculture Fund project. Now, Sita has been leading a project and analytical work focusing on sustainable and modern food systems, climate smart agriculture, green investment funds, and food safety and One Health. Over to you, Sita.
Thank you so much, Dina. Good morning, friends. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are right now joining the webinar from. May I take help of Vivek to show the slides on the screen. So basically, I'll take some minutes to explain to you the context of the project and what are the key principles which have gone into the design of the project. And then that will set the tone for the discussion about the innovation challenge platform and how and why it was done, and how it is deemed to, how it is planned to be leveraged for expanding the green agriculture technologies adoption in Henan province, right? So can you please move to the first slide? The first slide is about climate change. Climate change, as we all know, agriculture is part of the problem today, agri-food systems. It really contributes to nearly 29% of the greenhouse gas emissions. If you try to take the entire food system, not only in the agriculture, but also the things which are related to the value chain till the time the food reaches the consumer plate. Here again, 13% is agriculture, land use, and other things. If you try to add up, it comes to 29%, which is huge. 30% of climate change impacts we can try to determine if we have our strategies right. May we go to the next slide, please? The second, this one is, okay, what is an implication of climate change? I think this is, everybody is familiar that because of the climate change, the food and nutrition security is going to be impacted, particularly to the vulnerable communities and the countries which are adversely affected by the climate shocks. Moving to the next slide. Yes, this is about China. So if you just try to see, there are two major culprits in the agriculture sector. It is one is methane. The second one is nitrous oxides. And they contribute to nearly 14% of the global greenhouse gas emissions in agriculture sector. Only China only contributes to that. 60% comes from the crop sector, 40% comes from the livestock sector. Because livestock sector is concentrated, so 40% is very, very huge, and there's a very good opportunity to concentrated concerted efforts. If you're able to put in, you're able to determine the transformation in the climate smart agriculture and the green agriculture outcomes. And here the slide is actually trying to show within the livestock what are the species and which contributes to the most. We just try to say cattle and pork industry contributes to the most so far as the enteric fermentation and the manure management is concerned. Then obviously the crop agriculture rice system is going to be very, very important. So in fact, that is the reason when today we are discussing, we'll actually talk about the same kind of three technologies which will impact majorly this climate change impacts in agriculture in China. So can we move to the next slide, please? I'm sorry, I think there is a slow transition. So this is about the total green agriculture finance, green credit market. And in that context, what is the green agriculture finance market, right? So if you just try to say it is around 1.2, $1.5 trillion market when we last had this kind of evidence collection exercise analysis when we try to do that. So out of 1.2, $1.5 trillion of green credit mobilized from the commercial bank sector, the green agriculture finance to the agriculture sector is just $8.9 billion. And it's not only the commercial banks, there are several players and the different platforms are taking advantage of the expanding climate finance market. People say after fintech, climate finance is a next major thing in the financial sector. And China is already seeing that green bonds, nearly $89.3 billion have been issued. But what is the agriculture finance system? Is it typical in many of the countries we see? There are structural barriers to access to agriculture finance. Then the risk perception in the agriculture and economic incentives are inequitably dispersed along the value chains. And the power of symmetry, asymmetrical power along the value chains, right? So you can't really enforce the coordination. The coordination cost increases for the small holders, and the small holders need to be on board if we are trying to change the climate change impacts. So that is the reason we were trying to look at different issues. When we looked at, okay, what exactly is green agriculture finance, then we figured out the policy is actually trying to tag certain investments, very narrow set of investments like seed, the breed, or water efficiency facilities or energy efficiency facilities and transport. Other than that, there was hardly any discussion or any clarification on what exactly is green agriculture technology, what is the viability of it, how do we finance. So there was a wide knowledge gap there, right? So in fact, this is one of the reasons why we had to go in for a fund approach rather than a conventional project of making investments. So next slide, please. I can give one example. For example, in case of agriculture, if you're talking about climate smart investment, you need to work on the soil, you need to work on water, you need to work on seed, you need to work on agronomic practices post harvest. So actually, there is a bundle of technologies we need to be brought together so that we can try to have a determined impact. So that bundling, customization is what makes the green agriculture finance difficult. And if you also try to look at the technology life cycle, not everybody is aware of the technologies may not be there, technology awareness may not be there, technology adoption may not be there because of viability, the perception about the viability, or the supply of agriculture finance may not be there for green. So that is the reason we need to look at different sources of finance so far as the green technology is concerned. So it could be coming from the public finance, the upstream research, or it could come from a blended finance, or it could come from the private finance initiatives like commercial banks and even the bonds. So as you mature, so there more opportunities come up. But what in the project we try to do was have some sort of a unified definition or a common understanding. What does climate change what does green agriculture mean? So we actually consciously focused on climate change mitigation, adaptation, pollution prevention and control, resources efficiency, low carbon agriculture, and food safety. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so these are the key principles. The investment focus was on the value chain approach so that we can try to bring the smallholders and the lead farms together, use a sustainable finance approach to make to enable HADFIC or the Green Agriculture Fund to play as a rainmaker role in adopting market-driven approaches, leverage the commercial capital, not only finance, but also bring the banks together to cooperate and collaborate and co-finance these investments, align with the national policies, and complementary research, development, innovation. This is something which uniquely differentiate from the conventional approaches to the project approach which we have taken here. Is about developing new technologies, propagating, disseminating new technologies, promoting, incentivizing adoption of these technologies, and try to build the institutional systems. For example, for GAF, they're going to embed environment, social, and governance considerations in the core as a core investment philosophy. Try to develop a robust monitoring, reporting, and verification system, and also have a third-party verification system which can validate scientifically the green impacts. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you. So this is actually the construct of the project. The project development objective is to demonstrate the viability of financing green agriculture investments, foster innovations, and adoption of green agriculture technology standards and financing standards in Henan. So the core investment is about creating a fund, which is around $285 million, which will actually be invested directly in the company, in the enterprises as an equity instrument, as an equity investment or a debt instrument, but have a very significant technology and market development effort, which is about the innovation challenge, which Kevin is going to talk about after me. Then also have a very significant institutional development agenda, which I just mentioned to you. But having partnerships is very, very key. The partnerships from the banks, partnerships from the research and academic agencies, partnership from the angel investors, the philanthropy capital. So try to crowd in the knowledge, the resources, and the human resources to drive the impact so far as Green Agriculture Fund is concerned. Next slide, please. Perhaps the last slide. Yeah. So this basically the construct why we are doing it and how differently we are trying to do this. So I thank you so much for this. I'll be open to any questions. Yeah. So we will have again a chance to talk, and we're available. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Sita, which really highlights the incredible need now that's emerging for green agriculture finance, and how the Henan Green Agriculture Fund is going to try and meet that sort of emerging demand. So let me now turn to Mr. Jiwei Kevin Jiang, who is the team leader of the Henan Green Agriculture Fund project, and he will tell us more about the Solutions for Low Carbon and Climate Smart Agriculture Innovation Challenge. Now, Kevin has contributed to investment fund policy reform and helped to establish 20+ provincial government investment funds of nearly 14 billion for agriculture modernization, poverty reduction, and science technology innovations. Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks, Henan and Sita. Hi, everyone. Good morning and good evening and good afternoon. I'm Jiwei Jiang, or you can call me Kevin. I'm the leader of this project in Henan team, and I'm so grateful to join today's webinar. And this is such an honor for me to represent the Henan Green Agriculture Fund project, the team of HATFIC. HATFIC is my company, and I'm the deputy general manager of this company. And I appreciate that World Bank experts and three maybe talk after me, the three green agriculture innovators and all the audience to join us today and hear some of the information from Republic of China in Henan. Okay, would you excuse me? I can do my presentations in Chinese, and we do have the translation in here. Okay, guys. Can we go into the next slide? 大家好，我现在先这两张的这个 PPT 介绍一下我们的公司。
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm give a brief introduction about my company. Henan Agriculture Investment Group was established in 1992, and it is the only provincial level agricultural investment corporation. In the past 3 decades, we have been focused on the agricultural investment in Henan. And after 30 years development, our investment instruments have been including the equity, debt, fund, investment. And right now, so with the varieties of the investment instruments, we have been managing the asset portfolio of about 200 billion RMB, out of which 45 to 50% are invested into the agriculture industries. That was actually starting from 2016 when we started our discussion and contact with the World Bank in terms of the rural revitalization, the green technology development, etc. It was a good opportunity. Henan is a major agricultural province in China, which accounts for a large market share of both planting and husbandry. As both Sita and Sita have mentioned, that we're also facing a lot of challenges in terms of the food safety, the agriculture pollution, as well as the response to the climate change. So with the 4 platforms we've already had under HATFIC, we are now managing the Green Agriculture Fund. I think that is a very good opportunity to us. So the 4 platforms are listed, as you can see in the slide. It's implementing the National Rural Revitalization Strategy, and also that the platform to promote industrial transformation, upgrading and development. At the meantime, investment is the major business of the company. So we could bridge both the private and the public investment. So next slide. Next slide. So just now, I have given an overview about HAFIC, the corporation limited company. So the implementation entity for the project is Agricultural Fund, where I'm working with. I said that this company that is one of the earliest agricultural investment company in China, and it's also the first one to set up the fund, agricultural fund, back to 2009. So with the 12 years development, it has already becoming the largest agricultural fund management company. It's including the agricultural, manufacturing, and innovation, and etc. So by now, the asset portfolio of the GAF fund is over 100 billion RMB. So next slide. In fact, that we highly appreciate that we could have the opportunity to work with the bank in the past years to develop the Green Agricultural Fund. And with the cooperation with the World Bank, we have undertaken very thorough research. And actually from now on to 2026 and 2027, we had planning. So as we can see, the life cycle, 2021, in July, we officially launched the project, including the inception of the Green Agriculture Fund, the ESG system establishment, and also the first innovation challenge platform, as well as the first batch of the financing sector collaboration partnership establishment. And then there were the second stage, which is a focus stage between 2022 and 23, with the focus on the value chains and the geographical focuses. So we hope that we could eventually target to those high impact technology solutions. And then in the coming 2 years, we could set up this strategic partnerships with either the local governments or the private sectors. The third stage is to be realized in 2024, which is the matured ESG system, the green impacts verification that will be based on the coordination and collaboration with the research institutes. We hope that those kind of verification mechanism can be scaled up, and we can also check the portfolio quality. The last two stages is to hope that with our exploration and the partnership with the private sector, on one hand, we could scale up our portfolio, including the green bonds, or to attract the other private investment into the gas, so that we could furtherly summarize our experiences. Therefore, at the end of the project, we could have the experiences to be scaled up, to be replicable, and also to be shared around the world. Next slide, thank you. Actually, I think this is a very interesting question. Why did we launch the project with Innovation Challenge? Actually, a $300 million US loan, it's a large investment. However, we still think that technology is key to green and smart development, and it's the very primary driven force. Therefore, we trying to rely on such kind of innovation challenge activity and the platform to realize the following functions, not only serve for the innovation challenge itself as a VC or the early start companies, but also for facilitating the project to develop a very healthy ecosystem. So the first one is this technology and the solution platform. by targeting the challenges and the problems we are facing now in the agriculture. So we try to develop a platform to attract the best technologies. And secondly, is to set up a system through the collection of those technologies. We could help our partners and also the clients with these green agricultural solutions. And thirdly is knowledge sharing platform. We will accumulate all these knowledges and the sharing with the others, like for the green innovators, the research institutions, or these entrepreneurs, so that they could share their experiences and expertise. I will go faster. And the last one is the pipeline building. Next slide. So this one is showing why we want to set up this platform. So this is a vision. In the future, we want to attract different resources, including the capital and also the technical resources, and incorporate it into the platform. We're going to set up this kind of $6 million US innovation challenge fund. So next slide. So in the first innovation challenge competition, we mainly focused on the 5 aspects. That is also the 5 major areas that Henan province are focused on. First one is to improving the resource use efficiency. 2, reducing GHG emission. 3, reducing agricultural pollution. 4, enhancing food safety. 5, increasing climate resilience. So with these 4 focuses, we have organized online or offline with varieties of means to collect the proposals to solve the challenges from the 5 areas. Next slide, please. So with the help of the World Bank and also the China Agricultural Academy, so this competition is organized with 4 steps. First step is call for proposal, both online and offline, as well as the roadshow and with the partners, so that try our best to collect enough proposals for the 5 areas. And second is this roadshow for organize our clients and the potential innovators to share with them. And the third step is the evaluation. We have 2 rounds on independent panels to evaluate those proposals according to the criteria of the green agriculture. And then we come up with the short list out of those proposals, based on which we organized the interview and also scoring, and we selected the final winners. So that's the steps we have made for the first time innovation challenge competition. The next slide. So in this process of selecting the winners, with the help from the panels and experts, then we come up in the third stage, the evaluation. We come up with the methodology for evaluation. For example, that we have found out that the problem and also the potential green benefits, the company's business model, as well as their entrepreneur teams. So in total 100 score system. And with these 6 aspects, we have our experts panels to give the scores. So the good thing of that is we can come up with very scientific and objective results from the selection. Next slide, please. So with this first innovation challenge,
I will try to finish this in 1 minute.
Okay, just 1 minute. I will finish it. So for about the outcome, so we have received 32 proposals. All of them are good by covering a variety of areas. So I think that those proposals are quite problem targeted. And secondly, that we have going through a very thorough and scientific evaluation system, and we shortlisted 15 of them out of the 72. So which are more fitting into our future investment direction. And the third is this innovation candidate preparation. That's what you can also understand as our pipeline building, because though we shortlisted 15, but we will still look at the rest of the others. Those 15 that they may still need to certain further improvement from the previously mentioned 6 areas. As I said, that all of those proposals, they are very valuable and meaningful. And last, with this innovation challenge competition, so for we attract a lot of attention on this green agriculture technology, like from different stakeholders, like different partners, the banks or the other institutions. So an ecosystem of the green agriculture was formed. Next slide, please. So with that, the innovation challenge that we have all these proposals and the selection results. And for us, as the investment fund, we are going to manage the implementation of the investment as well as technical support to those applicants in terms of the enterprises, and also help to develop the market opportunities, including the scaling up of the good best practices and the good experiences, so that in the future, among different sectors under the green agriculture, we will have more opportunities. So we're going to defining how mature those enterprises are, and then provide varieties of support to them. So hopefully that in the coming years, we can have more sustained and continuous support to both those innovators and our partners. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thanks, Kevin, for that really excellent introduction to the Green Agriculture Fund and the mechanics of how it works. I think that's a very important element and of interest to many people. How does one really run a Green Agriculture Fund? Now, this is now a lead-in because our next speakers will now talk about the green agriculture technologies that they're really trying to promote adoption of. So let me start by inviting Dr. Liu Ciji, who's the President and Dean of Research of Boide Biotechnology Company Limited, and he will talk about the biofeed technology. Now, Dr. Liu specializes in animal nutrition and feed science and agriculture economic management. He has been awarded the top 10 young entrepreneurs in China's animal husbandry and feed industry in 2018. Over to you, Dr. Liu.
好的，尊敬的 Dina 女士和 Sita 先生，蒋总。
Honorable Dina and Sita and Kevin, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
我是来自中国北京博弈的。
I'm from Biofeed Technology Beijing company. I'm Liu Shijie. So it's a great honor that I have the opportunity to present my company's project. The title of my company is A Road to Green Development in Animal Husbandry. My presentation is composed of 5 parts. Next slide, please. Biofeed actually is the only designated transformation platform for the industrialization of scientific technological achievements of National Engineering Research Center biological feed. Next slide, please.
OK， 博伊德公司呢是国家发展改革委于20
And the company was established in 2011 under the NDRC for this biological feed development. So in the past decade, the company has been working hard on the technology development as well as the industrialization of the biofeed, which is relying on the Feed Research Institute Chinese Academy of Agriculture Science. So it's actually an enterprise driven by both technology and capital. Next slide, please. Biofeed have 52 full-time R&D staff. 65% of them are masters, are doctors, and have over 50 independent intellectual property rights. Also, the company has been focused to develop and improve the people's living standard through the biofeed technology, so that to provide a safe and high quality product to people. Next slide, please. So the major technology we're having is the biofeed. Actually, this is a very new concept. Biofeed Beijing has been working with the central government's research center. We have developed relevant standards under this field, and which have been published in 2018 as the group standard. The definition of it is that by the feed ingredients catalog and the feed additive species catalog of the MARA, the feed products are developed through the bioengineering technologies, so which mainly including 4 major types: biofeed, the microbeads, and also this enzymes and the biofeed additives. So according to the estimate, by 2025, the total throughput will be 40 million tons of biofeed, creating about 100 billion RMB value. So this is a very strong technical solutions for the biofeed development. Next slide, please. So different from the traditional feed technology, we have 4 advantages with the biofeed. Traditional feed is mainly using the physical and chemical technologies, but the biofeed technology are, in addition of physical and the chemical methodologies, more important is to use the microbeads, enzymes, etc., those biological technology, and through this multi-factor synergy like a microorganism. And the second one is that the traditional feed is a very isolated technology. We call that single point technology. But for biofeed, we focus more on the microorganism, that how it may work with the animals and how it can be digested with the animals by looking at different elements, the synergy of the multifactors. The third difference is that in the past 40 years development of the feed in China, we have been using the formula system from America, which we mainly use this corns and soybean schemes. But with the development of the industry, because of the impact from the Sino-US trade, So we have been having the import of the beans for over 100 million tons. With that, we have to try to explore the local raw material and try to incorporate it into the breeding sector. So with our statistic, every year that we have over 2.3 billion tons of this kind of crop waste not be fully used. But if we can use them in a very efficient way, that will be very critical and significant for the food security. The first difference is that in the past, no matter for feed or the husbandry, they are mainly focused on the animal nutrition. And we are now looking at that with the value chain based with this eco circulation, so that it could facilitating the industries better to provide a very high quality product to the consumers. Next slide, please. So maybe you can see from the numbers. For the biofeed, it does not only effectively improve the production function of the poultry or the husbandry. At the meantime, more importantly, it can improve the quality of the product, of the livestock products, so that they are safer and taste better. In July 2020, China government has already the regulation to forbid the antibiotics in the feed. So that is a very powerful, very strong policy foundation for us to fast develop a biofeed. Next slide, please. However, that the feed has to come into this breeding sector. Therefore, we have developed the fermented feed plus liquid feeding plus the planting and the breeding circulation framework. So with that, it can effectively solve the issues of the food safety, the environment protection, and shortage of feed resources. Next slide, please. So you can see that is a very classical case from my company in Jiangxi province. We have a pilot project. We use this potato stems to develop the feeds, to make it liquidated, and also to develop this as a feed to the feed. Please continue. Click. The other one you can see now is in Tongzhou in Beijing. There is a very big pig farm that with this large population of the pigs. So it's mainly used the bean sprout skin to develop the feed. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this one is the pig farm in Tongzhou in Beijing. Yeah, next slide. Okay, thank you. Now, sorry, the previous one. We have already have over 9 minutes. The previous one, thank you. The previous one, thank you. So as you can see, we have been using this biofeed technology. It can improve the utilization efficiency by about 10% and also reduce the pollutant discharge, which is about 60% decrease. At the meantime, that because the health of the animal have been improved without any antibiotics, so that the food safety is ensured. It's also good for reduced agricultural non-point source pollution. Next slide, please. So about our challenges, major thing is the short of the fund. So with this technology and scaling up of the technology, we need about 100 million RMB to complete the entire module. And the second challenge is talent. The third one is the further technology development. Okay, that's all from my presentation. Again, it's a great honor for me to give the presentation. So thank you for the World Bank and the organizers and all our partners around the world. As it's coming to the both the National Day holiday and the Mid-Autumn Festival in China, let me deliver my warmest greetings to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yu. I was really fascinated to learn about this new generation of animal feed that also draws on local raw materials, because that's always a challenge in many countries, and how it's now increasing productivity, contributing to lower greenhouse gas emissions, improved food safety. So it's really, I think, an excellent jump in terms of animal feed. Thank you very much. So now let me turn to Dr. Zhang Jun, who will talk about climate smart rice planting. Dr. Zhang is an agronomist from the Institute of Crop Science, the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and he focuses on GHG emissions in agronomic practices, crop adaptation to climate change, and the impacts of climate change on crop yields and grain quality. He's a member of the key laboratory of crop physiology and ecology at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, and part of the crop farming and ecological innovation team at the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Over to you, Dr. Zhang.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, good. So, Honorable Dina, Cedar, Kevin, and all the colleagues and the friends, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So first of all, it's my honor to share some of our achievements with all of you. We are coming from the CAS, Institute of Crop Sciences, Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Thank you, Dina, to give a brief introduction about me before the presentation. Just now, we have heard Kevin about the GAF and heard from Dr. Liu about the biofeed. So now, I'm going to share with you our practice in the crops. To our statistics that the CH4 emission is a major sources coming from the cropping, which is accounting for over 20% in the world. So how can we improve both the crops, but at the meantime to reduce the reduction? So that's a challenge. So that's also my presentation today, the climate smart planting. So next slide, please. Let me give a brief introduction about my institute. The CAS was established in 1957, and that is a state-owned institute. So it's mainly research on crop resources like maize, rice, beans, etc. for the both this molecular biology, crop breeding, cultivation, physiology, and farming system. And we have different, about 25 national level platforms. We are the first one in the comprehensive assessment about the agricultural research in the country. So in recent years, for the crop development and the reduction of the GHG emission, we have accumulated some experiences and made some achievements. I'm going to share with you. Next slide, please. So for the technology, this CSRP, it is a kind of species that is with the climate resilience, and it's integrating the oxygen topsoil energy saving and the tillage soil fertilizing machinery. So this technology is very good for the crop to develop, and it's also good for sequestration of the carbon from the crop. Therefore, the function of the ecological services from the crop can be improved. Next slide, please. So why we need to focus on both this rice planting and this reduction of GHG, as we are all aware that the GHG is key for the temperature rising in the world, and the people's demand for the food is also increasing. So, for example, if we try to control the rise of the temperature within 1.5 Celsius, and then we have facing the challenge of the how can we balance this? That by ensure the yields, but also to reduce the GHG. In China, we have also given the commitment for 2030 carbon peaking. So with that, for Henan, which is the primary agricultural province, the rice is only 4.2%, but the CH4 methane is over 30%. So with that, it has great potential of reduction of GHG. Next slide. So my team that with this technology development, we have made some achievement. How can we increase the yield? We think that to increasing the comprehensive index that we could improve the yield. But how can we reduce the CH4? There are three ways. One is to control the generation, and or that to control the oxygenization of it. So we find out that if we try to improve this relevant index, and also that we try to focus on the roots and giving it more an active to activate it, then it could try to control the oxygenization of the CH4. So we find out that this kind of specific rice species is very favorable for the emission reduction. And we've also find out that the soil fertility is also increasing, and also the root is stronger. Therefore, that the CH4 emission is also reduced. Next slide. So how can we strengthen the oxygenation of the CH4? We have also applied different measures for consolidated. We find out that in the anaerobic system that it will be easier to be changed into the CH4. Therefore, that we need to change this kind of overall environment. We found out it can improve. At the meantime, that this is also good for the straws to develop, and will eventually reduce the CH4 emission. At the meantime, during the practice, including the limited tillage, the irrigation management, etc., it can also increase the oxygen containing in the soil, and also it will ensure the yield, but also reduce the emission of CH4. Next slide. So with our research, we have come up with the CSRP technology that is mainly including the following aspects. The first one, to select high-yielding cultivator, and secondly, that to have the non-flooded plowing to improve the drier soil structure, to improve the oxygen containing, And thirdly, that and also the water saving irrigation. And the lastly is that the rice retuning technology, and that is mainly in the southern part of the China. At the meantime, my team have also worked with the other studies. For example, with the relevant technology applied together, it can increase the yield and control the emission. Next slide. So all those kind of technology have been implemented in different provinces like Anhui, and it made good achievements and results. Also, by comparing against the traditional rice, we find out that the yield can be increasing by 5% and the CH4 reduction by 30%. The cost reduction about 12%, the income increasing about 9.5%. So next slide. So with over decade technology development, we have also published a lot of papers overseas and in the country, as well as received many awards in the country for many provinces, and we have been recognized highly. And like the China Central Television have also promoted our technology. Next slide, please. But at the meantime, we are still facing some challenges, because that in those new concepts and the new practice like carbon sequestration, etc., we still need more training, especially for the small farms, that their awareness need to be improved. At the meantime, for the small farms, with this new practice and the new technology, it needs time to understand and accept. At the meantime, that the crop need time to develop. The new technology need at least about 1 year for a small scale trial, and then we need more time for a large scale. Then we could try to reach our estimated objective. So that's all from my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jiang, for sharing with us your new technology on climate smart rice planting. I was just thinking that, in the past we had talked about the green revolution, and mainly for rice, for example, in Asia. And the green revolution then was to just increase productivity of the rice. I think I would call this the green revolution 2.0. because it's green 2 times. It's the green revolution that increases productivity, but it's also a green revolution that's also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So congratulations to you, who's also now our second presenter and a second winner of the Innovation Fund. Thank you so much. Now, let me now turn to Dr. Liu Ji, who is a senior engineer at the Chengdu Academy of Agriculture and Forestry Sciences and Chief Technology Officer of the Chengdu Bulebao Technology. And he will talk about antibacteria and insect repellent fruit bags. So he's also another winner of the Innovation Challenge. Now, Dr. Liu's research expertise is on pathogenic microorganisms and natural inhibitors in fruits and vegetables, and has published over 40 research papers in domestic and foreign academic journals. Over to you, Dr. Liu.
好的，清楚吗？清楚吗？好的，尊敬的世行专家及河南。
Honorable the World Bank team and the Henan team, all the participants. Hello everyone. I'm from Bulebao. My presentation is antifungal and insect repellent fruit bags. The next slide, please. Traditional fungicide are mainly used to ensure the yield at present, but there is a conflict. that the low toxic fungicide are characterized by short duration of actions and narrow antifungal spectrum. However, that for this high toxic fungicide that has a higher impact on the environment, the best time is before the disease can be detected, but we have no clue that how can we do that. So with that, for the new biotic side, we still need some time to understand its effect. Next slide, please. So how can we use them, and at which time and which timing? Our solution is that to pest prevention the more targeted compared to other ones. So building on this library of pathogenic fungal and the library of the antifungal spectrum against the pathogen space on a wide range of plant extracts. And with that, we could have the formula for the long-term function management. At the meantime, that we also combine with the other technologies. And also we develop an antifungal formula based on the microbiome community diversity analysis for the long-term ones. Next slide, please. So for the R&D that we started from 2011, it's been over 11 years. We have been preserving 255 kinds of the pathogens. And so this kind of library have been established. So on one hand, that we look at both the fruit and the leaves, and then we develop the targeted solutions for them. On the other hand, we continue to collect relevant kinds of the pathogens for expanding the library and our database so that we could develop relevant technologies toward them. Next slide, please. So every year, that about the loss of the harvesting is over 25%, so that's very high. So the major reason is that it's in the cultivation, but not in the storage. And with the maturity of the fruits, this kind of impact is going worse. So especially that to the fruit, that while it's approaching to the harvesting, we have strong control of the chemical pesticide, but they cannot solve the fundamental issue. So that's why we move to the focus when we have the seeding of them. And we call that this functional, the functional fruit bag. Actually, that this use of them is over 20 billion pieces. However, that the types of them are quite single and very limited choices, and it does not have very good function for control the pest. Therefore, that we have this research with the functional bags, and we use this food-based or the medicine-based raw materials, which is very healthy. Next slide, please. So normally that the continents can be released in the high temperature or in the very warm environment. However, that it can be controlled in a very good way. So for example, with kiwi, that 1.5 billion of antifungal bags for this 150,000 moons of the kiwi fruit, then the loss is lowered by 1,000 yuan per moon, and the total loss can also increase serious. Next slide, please. Our team is composed of different parts, including the commercial, the technology part, and we work together with the Chengdu Academy of Agricultural Forestry Science. Next slide, please. The average age of our R&D team is 33. It's a very young team. Next slide, please. So from 2019, we have applied those biofungal bags and also coming up with a very strong branding. And also through this test of the residues of pesticide, we have been achieved a very good result. The idea in Henan is that we are going to develop in the following 5 years for both Henan, Shandong, and Shanxi, and to achieve the annual output of 10 billion. And to cover 1 billion moons of the production base to increase the efficiency and also the benefits. The value of this reduced loss is about 1.4 billion yuan. And also reduce the use of fungicide or insecticide in the orchard. Next slide, please. Our library is the core resources. Has very strong ecological values, because that with those information and as a data center, we could provide a visual comparison and also provide those visualized information, provide also the data support. So with this library, we can also provide the DNA information, so that will be facilitating the fast test. So this is also a kind of new product, because that in a very short time, it can fast test the trend of the future potential pest damaging in the orchard, so that we could have the mitigation measures developed. So we are also trying to develop this early alarm system with those data and information. And also we use both these technologies trying to replace the traditional pesticide. So actually that this is the first generation products that we are developing, and we are going to continue in this direction. So based on this overall technology roadmap, we are also incorporating some services, and we're trying to making them with more business opportunities. For example, like for certain fruit that we use the technology for branding it, etc. Next slide, please. So about the problems and challenges in 3 effects. Firstly, insufficient production capacity. Since the child cell in 2019, the increasing of the cell product have been seriously by 10 times, but we don't have enough production capacity. And secondly, that the long distance transportation of raw material, because 85% of those special raw material are coming from Henan, but the manufacturing, the factory is in Sichuan, so the transportation distance is very long. And thirdly, the lack of R&D funds, because we need a lot of team members for this R&D work, for enlarging our pathogen library and the antifungal spectrum library. So we really need the support either technically or financially from the World Bank to help us solving those problems and the challenges. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Liu, on the presentation. Is really innovative fruit bags. Fruits are very perishable, and so any way we can reduce the food waste and loss, starting from the farm, is really, really very important. And the fact that it's also nature-based is even better. So thank you so much for your presentation. So this concludes the presentations of our panelists. And congratulations again to our 3 winners of the first innovation challenge. Now, before we move on to our discussants, I had a question for all the panelists, and look forward to your short responses. Now, you have been through this process and have been successful. If you were asked to do the whole thing again, whether for the fund or the technology that you are developing, how would you do it differently, and why? So let me start with maybe we'll go backwards. Let me start with Dr. Liu. Given the advances that you have made right now, what would you think would you do differently if you had to do it again, and why?
Sorry, Dana. There are 2 Dr. Lius here. So which doctor?
Let's start with Dr. Luji.
好的， 好的，关于这个问题呢，
So for this question, if I do it again, actually that we have already had 2 detours. You know, our research was starting from after harvesting, I mean from storage even, so that we was not aware that actually a lot of problems after harvesting actually is before harvesting, during the production. So we found out that actually our pesticide have already if we use our pesticide after harvesting, it doesn't really work very well because that the fruit cannot absorb very effectively. Therefore, for example, if I will do it again, I think that I will do it from the very beginning before the harvesting. And the second thing is that about the application methodology. It's because our technology system take time to be expanded, as I said, about these 2 libraries. But our application at the very beginning, we were constraining ourselves because at the very beginning, we were thinking about this preservation, and we thinking about adjectives for preservation, but we did not think about that the bags can also be working well. So this kind of the bags, the labels, and also that the others can be incorporated together, even with the liquidated fertilizer. So all these can be working together for control the bacteria and the pest. So with more explorations in this, we find out that the formula actually can be various. So the technology itself does not only a product, but it's also be useful for the forecasting of the diseases and also providing the agriculture services. So I think that in the future, we may also do more exploration about the various of the products based on this technology. So that's my response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me now turn to Dr. Liu Xiji.
好，感谢戴娜女士，感谢大家的问题。
Thank you, Dana, and thank you for the question. In fact, to our project, if we do it again, I think there will be no much difference. Why do I say so? It's because that it's dependent on the timing. In China, we have a saying that be faster with half pace, but not that faster. It's because that if the technology is too much developed, but the timing is not ready enough, we don't think that the effectiveness or the efficiency will be so good. So I think that what we may do now is that we continue our study and keep on learning and keep sharing information and also learning from our global colleagues that to work together. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let me turn to Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang, same question for you. If you have to do the same thing differently, what would you, in terms of the climate smart rice planting, is there something that you would change and now that you know more about it?
好的，谢谢，很好的问题。
Thank you, Dana. This is a very good question. We have actually did it differently many times, but right now that the technology is very matured, I think that in terms, I will say that in terms of the how can we do it differently, I will be more focused on the scaling up of it, and that will also be the significance and the meaning of it. with that, I think some of the issues we have to solve. Firstly, how can we encourage the farmers to accept those concepts and this new technology? And secondly, that the government and the enterprise, whether the government will have any incentive mechanisms to the enterprises like us. And thirdly, that whether this promotion methods are be accepted by the farmers. So firstly, for the first points, if I can do it differently to help the farmers to understand and accept those concepts, I think that more focus, more efforts can be given for giving the training to them. And in the meantime, that I think we can also learn from the other areas and from the project of the World Bank, and we could combine them. And for the second point, I think that for the farmers, that they are quite practical. We cannot simply convince them by just telling them. We need to let them see what the actual benefits is, and that will be easier for them to accept. So that's about the concept acceptance. So regarding the support and the incentive from the government, training is one part, but it's not enough. Barely enough, because that we still need a lot of agricultural agriculture departments to work together with the enterprises, like those agricultural officials and also the researchers from research institutes. They should also receive the training, and then that you can deliver the message to the farmers. On the other hand, I think that the government can also do the other thing, because that there is an issue about how to balance both the yield and the GHG emission. So because that some cost may be occurring. So if that's the case, whether the government would like to provide certain subsidies to the farmers for promoting the technology. And thirdly, that if we need support from the enterprises, we prefer to develop some new type like cooperatives and the entities, like the family farms, the cooperatives, they are growing. So we work with them, like as develop them as a demonstration so that the more farmers can accept it. And then about the promotion, we have also some experiences. In China, for the science, technology, innovation, we have already developed a lot of on-the-crop classes. So for example, that we work in the crops in the field, and we work with the farmers and we show them to let them see the results. The purpose is to improve their mindset and their understanding, as well as their technology practice skills. We have another idea. We need to encourage the farmers to use our technology, like from a small area as a pilot. At the meantime, that we could work with the governments, like to set up certain kind of incentive mechanisms to farmers so that they are more active.
Okay.
So this is the thing that if we do it differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shan. Let me turn it over to Kevin. Kevin, the same question for you.
OK， 谢谢三位的这个创新者，因为我在
Thank you, all of the three innovators. Actually, I've been working and studying in the States for about 10 years. I came back in 2015 and working in Zhengzhou for agricultural investment. My understanding is that if I will do it again, I would say that no matter it's for the innovation challenge or for the gap design, I may do it slightly differently. For example, the organization of this platform by incorporating the different parties, like the policymakers, the commercial banks, and the research institutes, as well as those future enterprises, we may have strong collaboration. So if I can do it again, I think from the very beginning, I will be more making more efforts to coordinate with them from the beginning. It will not be like that after 2 or 3 years later, after we have the platform, I started this kind of coordination with them. So for example, back to 2016, I can do it again. I may initiate my contact and the discussion with them, because by looking back, I find out that we need all of these multiple stakeholders to work together. Yeah. So if I could be aware of this several years ago, I think that maybe now we will already have a lot of very good investment with the green effects, and also with very good business opportunity. My personal observation also, by after listening the 3 innovators presentations, many partners we have contacted in the agriculture industry, it's long cycle, high risk, and in some external circumstances, it's even very fragile. So for example, like this year, Henan is suffering from this 1,000 years occurring flood, as well as this African swine fever. So which resulted in the fragility of the sector. So we hope, like, as the only agricultural investment financing platform, the roles we could play is exactly as what the 3 innovators have just presented, to satisfy the demand of those innovators by partnership with the government and with the market. So we are acting like a bridge. So upstream, we're working with the government for providing the policy recommendations to the government. So maybe that with the support from the bank, maybe we could develop such a very healthy and sustainable path for providing this policy recommendation to the government. On the other hand, that we are investment company, we have professional team who can provide more professional services and help to the green technology innovators, so that we could give them more opportunities for experiment and also for the market trial. So we can do bridging the enterprises and the market. No matter how good the technology is, without application in the market, we will not see the benefits from it, no matter about the green benefits or the financially or the economic benefits. So if we do it again, I will rethink the policy, public investments, private sector, entrepreneurs, and innovators as a whole in a more organic way, and then we may be better. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, Sita, very briefly, any
half a minute. No, fortunately, Kevin has articulated very well, but I can take this opportunity to acknowledge Kevin has proved me wrong. Okay, so initially when we started this innovation challenge, Kevin's team, the average age would be 23, 24 years, right? They're a young blood. We were proposing that we should go in for a professional agency to run this entire campaign. But all of them insisted, even though it was a little more transaction cost, they insisted that they will do it themselves. So as a result, the team has actually learned how to define a problem statement so far as green agriculture is concerned, how to identify a technology, how to vet it, and how do we evaluate. I think half of the training, which otherwise projects will take more than a year or two to understand, I think that could be taken, that could happen in the shortest possible time on the day one of the project. I think that is a learning, and that learning, I think we should try to take to all other projects. So far as what could we do better, I think Kevin has said much better than what I could. So I leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sita. So now let me turn to our four discussants who have been the champions of the Green Agriculture Fund. I hope you can now maybe speak your sort of thoughts on the fund for maybe like 3 to 4 minutes. Let me start with Paavo Elist. He's the lead agriculture economist in the Agriculture and Food Global Practice in the Africa region. Actually, prior to joining the Africa region, he was actually with us in the East Asia Pacific region as coordinator of the Agriculture and Rural Development Program in China and Mongolia, and was the task team leader of the Henan Green Agriculture Fund. Let me turn it over to Paavo. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tina, and it's great to see so many old friends. Yes, I've been fortunate to be part of the conceptualization and the preparation of this project. And since then, as Tina mentioned, I have moved from East Asia and China to the Africa region, where I'm leading the Sustainable Development Policy Unit, which actually does work on very similar issues in African continent. Just to go back to the genesis of the project, it was really motivated by the recognition that the business as usual was not an option, both to the China and to the World Bank, and we all know the challenges what China is facing in terms of sustainability of its food systems, and which, if not addressed, would not only affect its own food security, but the food systems globally. So the green agriculture innovations which were presented today, they all address this critical environmental sustainability, and including food security issues what China is facing, from the management of livestock waste to reducing the overuse of agrochemicals and the greenhouse gas emissions. While many of these technologies may not be yet affordable to the most smallholders, if they are going to be successful and economically profitable, scaling them up in a large country like China would certainly bring down the cost of these technologies in the future, which would make them more affordable and available to others. Another Chinese contribution comes from its public and private spending on innovation systems, which would generate globally available green agriculture technologies, such as those what we just heard about today, and which could become available to the smaller countries who may find it more difficult to finance their own innovation systems. Now, in terms of Africa, the timing of such green agriculture innovations is critical, as African food systems are under increasing pressure from the climate change. Specifically, the climate adaptation is perhaps the most urgent task for African countries as now. Just to give you example, for sub-Saharan Africa, the annual cost of climate adaptation is about $15 billion compared to the cost of inaction, cost of doing nothing, which would be about $200 billion annually. Now, saying that, African countries have its own, share of green agriculture innovations, and of course they could benefit even further from innovations developed by larger countries such as China. But what is really important is how do we scale up the pockets of success what we see across the continent, and so what are the kind of key policy and other enabling conditions for that scale up to happen in a massive way. So, and I have identified essentially 3 points which I wanted to highlight today. The first, there is ample of international evidence including the evidence from China, that that shows that scaling up sustainable agriculture practices, such as those what we discussed today, requires changes at farm scale. Evidence from China itself shows that farmland, tenure, security, and land consolidation have a positive effect on farmers' decisions to adopt green agriculture technologies. In fact, over 50% of Chinese farmland is now under some form of land consolidation through land transfer schemes. And this is also happening in Africa in some extent, particularly through the emergence of what we call medium-scale farmers, who now control, substantive share of farmland. Just to give you an example, about 20% of farmland in Kenya is currently now, managed by some medium-scale farmers, and over 50% of farmland in Zambia. So these are very different farmers. What we have seen so far, they are dynamic, they are commercially oriented, and they could become significant source of demand for green agriculture innovations. The second is that what we have seen from China is that greening of food systems requires development of modern innovation systems for technology generation and diffusion. China itself has spent significant amount of public and private financing to build such innovation systems. However, the funding levels for R&D in Africa have been falling over the last 2 decades. So it is important for African policymakers to reorient this trend and basically, focus their public spending programs more on invention, adaptation, and diffusion of green and sustainable agriculture technologies, with a particular focus on adaptation, with aim of reaching a 1% target from ag GDP, which is considered as good practice. And my third and last point is that that Africa, as many other countries, African countries, face significant financing debt when it comes to food systems adaptation. And the question is, where does this money come from? Of course, there are opportunities for climate finance or for blended private finance, such as the scheme what we have prepared in Henan, the GAF. Yet in many African countries, a significant share of public spending still goes to poorly targeted market price supports and the subsidies. For example, 10 African governments currently spend roughly about $1.2 billion annually in poorly targeted input subsidies. Now, if we could reallocate some of these expenditures to green agriculture technologies or innovation systems, it could become a significant source of funding for a scale up in the future. So let me just wrap it up by saying that regardless what approach one would take in scaling up these green agriculture innovations, it would still require that we continue, the transformation of overall food systems. And Africa is in the midst of transformation of its food systems. Now, China has been doing it for many, many decades. And so it does provide good examples of agricultural transformation, and something what we should all look closely and try to learn from them. So let me stop here and thank you very much.
Thanks, Pavel. It really highlights why it's important not only to scale up all these new innovations in Henan and China, but even globally, particularly how do we bring the same technologies to Africa as well. Now, let me now go to Irina Klichnikova, who is a lead agriculture economist in the Agriculture and Food Global Practice in the Europe and Central Asia region. She has worked in multiple regions across the bank, including Latin America, Middle East and North Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa. She has been a champion of agriculture innovation. Let me turn it over to Irina.
you very much, Dina, and thank you to everyone for participating in this really fascinating discussion, and congratulations to the winners of the Innovation Challenge. So I would like to just highlight, in my brief remarks, I'd like to highlight the relevance and the innovacy not only of the innovations themselves that are really very fascinating, but of the model of financing private investment in the green agriculture. So there aren't actually that many examples globally of a fund that would be similar to the one established by the Henan project. And so let me talk about the relevance for two regions where I recently work now, Middle East, North Africa, and Europe and Central Asia. So both regions are really, they're really very different. Of course, the Middle East, North Africa is a highly food dependent region. It's one of the most nearly over 95% of cereals are imported in a number of countries, such as Yemen, the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf Cooperation countries, and a number of other ones. The other countries that have significant agricultural production, like Egypt and Morocco, are really worried, looking at the impacts of climate on the already severe water scarcity and what that means for agriculture. They're increasingly looking for scaling up innovative solutions to increase water efficiency, water use efficiency in agriculture, and innovations such as, for instance, water soil moisture sensors used in drip irrigation combined with conservation agriculture technologies. And while there are many pilots, what we see is there is still not a clear idea, even for countries like Egypt and Morocco, where I worked recently, there is not a very clear idea of how to scale up those solutions and how to move for significant reliance on public investment to really mobilizing private capital flows into this kind of green agriculture or climate smart agriculture solutions. So I think that poses a really key challenge that I'd like to, to pose to all the participants here and the innovators, as mentioned by my colleague Pavel, is how to think about eventually moving from the pilot success stories to innovation at scale. So some of those solutions hopefully will be scalable, and please be assured that there is a great interest on behalf of many of the clients that we work with at the World Bank, particularly in the Middle East, North Africa region. And I do know that some counterparts from Morocco, from the Moroccan government, are participating and really looking at your example, because right now we're helping them with a study, with a review of international best case kind of stories and practices on establishing innovative models for green financing in agriculture. And most certainly the approach you're taking with the Henan project with the Green Innovation Fund, that's a really good one. It bodes well with a lot of the direction, with the keen interest in mobilizing private finance at a time of a fiscal crunch because of the response to COVID and the impact of COVID on the economies. So one other feature of the Middle East North Africa region is a very high population growth rate, and 2 out of 3 people are under age 24. So it's a predominantly very young population as well. That translates into a lot of job market entrants in the next few years. And there are, how do we make agri-food systems and jobs attractive and appealing for them? Is a really, really important question. And it's, it's certainly the innovative approaches like this, like we're hearing from the experience of China, that is what gets them excited. So it's a digital agriculture at the nexus with climate smart and green. That's what's probably has the potential to create a lot of jobs and a lot of interest for those populations. And so maybe to conclude, I'd like to mention a particular example from Morocco again, where, for the past decade, the government successfully supported the Green Morocco Plan, which facilitated the conversion of large areas to drip irrigation and promoted the planting of fruit trees and olive trees as a way of promoting climate resilience and reducing the impact of climate shocks. Now, the interesting point is that there is a shift now, and the new strategy is focusing around people. So it's called the Green Generation Strategy. And it is very much trying to respond to those youth, the youth in the, or other population groups, of course, in the rural areas, creating jobs, opportunities for innovation, promoting agri-entrepreneurship. And there's a big question mark on how can you effectively do it, combining the measures to improve the general ecosystem for investment through conducive agricultural policy, agricultural support instruments, incentives on the public side, combining that with the training, combining that with innovative financing models, so that going back to the beginning, so that those innovations can really occur at scale. And so I think that there's a lot of potential to exchange these experiences, both on how to structure this, but also to push the envelope in terms of scaling, in the exchange with the countries. And now, having just joined the ECR, the Europe and Central Asia region, I do see, a very different story. These are a lot of the countries like Kazakhstan or Russia, or a number of other countries are net food exporting. They're major global food exporters, particularly of cereals. But they are facing some of the same dilemmas, with the impacts of climate, increasing droughts, and the need to, and the shortage of fiscal resources. So the big question is, how could they move to branding some areas of the agri-food systems as green, making them such, through conservation tillage. And remember, Kazakhstan is one of the first countries in the world, along with Brazil, to convert large swaths of land into zero tillage. So here's the large potential for soil carbon storage and climate mitigation and adaptation at the same time. So, look forward to further exchanges with the really fascinating, with the institutions who have spoken here today and who are present, to really facilitate this, the exchange of ideas and the flourishing of the innovations, so that we can combine support on the public side and those new approaches that are coming from the private sector, to really see how to help, move these innovations to higher scale, so that we can really truly attract and convert that large available private investment, for which there are not enough projects, enough bankable, investable projects, so that we can leverage some of that funding to complement the public resources more effectively. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish the best of luck to the winners and to other future participants of the Innovation Challenge.
Thanks, Irina. You really highlighted why it's very important how we can mobilize more money for green agricultural finance to support the innovations to make agriculture green and also cool for young people to come back to. Now, let me turn it over to Juan Buchino, who's a senior expert in the finance, competitiveness, and innovation global practice. He specializes in agriculture finance and cooperatives. Juan, over to you.
Thanks so much, Dina. A pleasure to be here, and I will try to be short considering the time. Well, the challenge of financing for green agriculture is huge. And I think that the previous presentations have already highlighted the issue. And it is clear that the public resources alone will not make it, will not suffice in order to provide the financing that is needed for a rather large demand, large and growing demand. But the green agricultural finance is a very complex field. From the perspective of financing, you have the two things coming together. On the one side, the complexity of agricultural finance, which already is a very challenging field in many countries where you have very low levels of supply. In China, for instance, only 20 out of 4,000 registered asset management firms engage in agricultural finance, and all of them are public. So the supply of agricultural finance per se is already a challenging area. And then on top of this, then you have the challenge of financing a field that is very innovative. So green agriculture is a new field. It is a new field. We have seen the innovations today, and I think they're really exciting to hear how the different problems of agriculture and of emissions are being addressed, but they are new, and they require also specific forms of financing, which may not necessarily be the traditional bank financing. So we have to bring this together and help to build a new market. That is actually the challenge that we're facing here, and in which it is very important that, and I go back to Kevin's comment, that relations are built very early stage, because there are many actors that need to be brought together. So one thing to develop this market, well, it has been already stressed a couple of times, the need to define what is green. And what is green also to define it from the perspective of a financing institution. And it needs to be something that needs to be monitorable. And if we consider that this needs to be monitorable, this brings an additional challenge to finance, and that is that the costs of financing increase. So financing green agriculture is something that will be more expensive than financing other activities, because you have specific requirements of monitoring, and these monitoring techniques are also something that are evolving. So from satellite technologies and all these things, these are opportunities that are arising that will make it cheaper, but they don't take away from the fact that it will be more expensive. So why should investors do that? This is the key question that we find. They will do it if there is a demand for it, and the demand is just growing. And I think it is very, very important to stress that, so that we are here in a bind with the situation, with the higher costs. So we need, on the one side, develop on the demand side. I mean, on the demand side of the agricultural firms and of the agricultural processing firms, we need to develop the demand for green investments, but we need also to develop the supply. And for that, we need to leverage the resources that are available, especially from two camps. One is from public agencies and public and international agencies. This is one camp that is very important, that will help to bring in private investors. And on the other side, then also from investors who have a green heart and who have but these are investors who are mainly, these are investors, it's my timer. So these are investors that are mainly to be found in the impact investor community. These are the green investors, the venture capitalists and angel investors. Those are the ones, and we see it from the reply of the innovators that this is the type of money that they have received so far. So these are the two key sources, and these two key sources need to be leveraged to bring in more private capital to develop the proof of concept of the innovations, but also to develop and to prove that it is possible to finance these innovations and to get adequate returns. So one key issue is, if we think today, I think that today the way how green agricultural finance is promoted is through incentives. And this is something that may shift in time. In time, it may become more and more important because it needs to comply with regulations and with standards that are being set up by the government and that will need to be monitored in order to enforce them. Then it will be the green aspects of the activities, and the green aspects of the financing will be simply one of the regular costs, and it will be standardized. And standardization is something that also needs to be looked at, looking into the future, because initially it will be more investment by investment type of assessment that will need to be done. But in time, it should be standardized so that it can be massified and that it can also reach the small guys. To close, so there are a couple of instruments that are being used in this. So we have, on the one side, I would like to mention 2, 3. One is the incipient use of green bonds, which is quite exciting. Mexico, but again, it's a public bank, it's a public financial institution, FIDA, came up with green finance with green bonds, and these green bonds are to finance. And the first one was for greenhouses, interestingly. So that bond, it was structured with support from the Inter-American Development
Juan,
Bank.
I need you to wrap up in the next minute
Yes.
or two. Thank you.
I will wrap up immediately. So this is something, this bond was supported by the Inter-American Development Bank, thus making it more attractive. And also the criteria for the bond were developed by the the Climate Bond Initiative, and they are setting standards. And the collaboration of these three is that what make it feasible for this to happen. So just this far, and I close here. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan, for highlighting that we need to find creative financing solutions. The need is there, but how do we get the money to flow from the government, private sector, bring incentives to really finance this effort? Now, let me turn it over to Parmesh Shah, who is our global lead for data-driven digital agriculture at the World Bank. He's currently involved in developing a global program on scaling up data-driven digital agriculture, involving data platforms and establishing ecosystems for innovation, entrepreneurship, and incubation. Over to you, Parmesh.
Thanks, Dina, and I'll be very brief because we have reached the full limit of what we can go. This is the webinar in the Global What's Cooking series, in which we try to bring innovations all over the world. And I think today has been a very, very encouraging session, very high quality of presentations, and also to really listen to the cutting edge innovations which are coming out of China. So I will draw implications for our own teams to go into this area. 29 innovation challenges have been done by various teams across the bank. We are just coming up with a manual and a review of all the innovation challenges very soon. And that will be presented in one of the webinars as well. So I think what is critical now, that in area of technology, data, and digital, we need to scout for innovations proactively. The World Bank projects have been very reluctant to go beyond the traditional technologies, and we just go to some 3 or 4 traditional technologies and try to scale them up. That's not going to work when we are dealing with digital technologies and when we are dealing with green technologies. Because you can see that for 10 years, these innovators have been developing this innovation. The whole amount of research gone into it. If we are not able to provide an ecosystem for promoting these innovations and don't scout them in our projects, we will be working with a very narrow range of technologies, which will become irrelevant in the new world, which is being disrupted by digital technologies, data, and lots of climate change there. So what we want to help the teams to design these innovation challenges in every project. Every project of the bank should be doing this, because this is something which adds value immediately. The second thing, it's not enough to do just innovation. It's important to develop some kind of early stage financing for the innovators, because it's not readily available. There is some patient capital required to finance these to reach the next stage. And the third is we need collaboration with other financing models, like we are doing this with Rabobank in Africa. We are doing this with other root capital, village capital in Africa. And I feel that similarly, just to tell Pao that there are almost like 150 green technology startups in Africa also. But we have not found a way to bring them into a platform like the China has been able to do. So we need to invest in this ecosystem building. And I think in future, the projects should be about ecosystem building. It should not be about just financing a technology. Because ecosystem building is about creating a pipeline and then working on it. So my recommendation to teams is, if you are thinking of doing an innovation challenge, get in touch with us. We will help you connect with China and other teams so that you are able to do that. Second, we will help you design components in your projects so that you can not just do innovation challenge, but do innovation financing and also ecosystem building. And third is that we are now working with IFC also to see if we can create a joint fund between bank and all to work on these green climate and other digital technologies. So I think it will be good for the East Asia team to talk with their IFC colleagues, which we can facilitate so that we can look at a fund to support all these innovators as we go forward. Yeah. And thank you very much. And congratulations to all the winners and all the people who presented there. And thanks all the discussants also for very, very interesting ideas. Thank you. Over to you, Dina.
Thanks, Pramesh, for outlining some options going forward on how to implement this in more countries with the help of the global team. Now, I want to thank everyone for staying. I know we're over time, so I want to thank all the presenters for the excellent presentations and for sharing the amazing work that you're doing. Congratulations to all the winners. These are going to be very important, as I mentioned, not only within China, but for the rest of the world. As if you have heard from Africa to Middle East and North Africa to Central Asia. I want to thank the discussants for their excellent ideas also on how to make this work better also in other countries. And finally, many thanks for the people behind the scenes, to Fang, Xiaoyue, Xuan, Yuan, and Vivek for making this webinar happen. So have a great, a very good night to all of you in Asia, good day in US, and good afternoon in the rest of the regions. Please stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Just a quick announcement, Dina. The next week's seminar, next Thursday, is on India AgTech. And please join us because you will hear of a lot of innovations which are happening in India AgTech in that webinar. It's a very interesting panel again. And so please join on that day and please register at the Open Learning Campus on the link provided by Vivek just now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.